Have you ever forgotten a name just seconds after hearing it? Have you studied for hours, but during the exam, your mind went completely blank? If your answer is yes, then this speech is for you. What if I tell you that your memory is not weak? What if I tell you that you can train your brain just like a muscle? And what if, by the end of this speech, you learn simple techniques that can help you remember names, lessons, and even improve your English? Stay with me until the end, because the last idea may completely change the way you use your brain every single day. Memory is often misunderstood. Many people believe that only intelligent or talented people are born with a strong memory, and the rest of us must accept forgetting as a weakness. This belief is wrong. Memory is not a gift that some people receive at birth and others do not. Memory is a skill, and like every skill in life, it can be learned, trained, and improved with regular practice. When we understand this truth, we stop blaming ourselves and start taking control of our learning. Think about how you learned to walk, write, or speak a language. At first, it was difficult. You made mistakes. You forgot steps. Memory works in exactly the same way. If you use your brain without direction, it will feel weak. But if you train it with simple techniques, it will become stronger day by day. The brain is like a muscle. When you exercise it properly, it grows more powerful. Many people say, "I have a bad memory," but what they really mean is, "I have not learned how to use my memory correctly." They try to memorize information in one long session without understanding, focus, or connection. This is not memory failure. This is poor method. Once the method changes, the results change too. Anyone, regardless of age or background, can improve memory by learning how the brain stores and recalls information. Another important point is that memory improves through use. When you challenge your brain with new information, puzzles, reading, or language learning, you are actively strengthening it. Even small daily activities, such as remembering names, recalling events from the day, or reviewing new words, help build stronger memory pathways. The key is consistency, not perfection. Believing that memory is a skill gives you power. It removes fear and replaces it with confidence. Instead of saying, "I can't remember," you begin to say, "I am learning how to remember better." This change in mindset is the first and most important step. Once you accept that memory can be trained, you open the door to improvement, growth, and lifelong learning. Forgetting is something everyone experiences, yet most people do not truly understand why it happens. We often blame our memory and assume our brain is weak, but forgetting usually has clear and simple reasons. The first and most common reason is lack of focus. When information enters our mind without attention, it does not stay. If you hear something while thinking about something else, your brain never properly stores that information. You cannot remember what you never fully noticed in the first place. Another major reason we forget is stress. When the mind is under pressure, the brain focuses on survival, not storage. Worry, fear, and anxiety block the natural process of memory. A stressed brain finds it difficult to organize information, which makes recalling it later even harder. This is why many people forget answers during exams or important meetings, even though they studied well. The knowledge is there, but stress locks the door to it. Tiredness is also a powerful enemy of memory. When we do not sleep enough, the brain cannot refresh or strengthen memory connections. Sleep is the time when the brain sorts, stores, and protects what we learn during the day. Without proper rest, information remains weak and easily forgotten. A tired mind tries to remember, but it struggles because it was never given the chance to recharge. Another reason for forgetting is trying to remember too much at one time. When we overload our brain with information, it becomes confused. The brain works best when learning is broken into small, meaningful parts. When people try to memorize everything quickly, they create pressure instead of understanding. As a result, the information fades fast. Finally, forgetting happens when learning has no meaning. If information is not connected to real life, emotions, or previous knowledge, the brain sees it as unimportant. Memory improves when we understand, connect, and care. Forgetting is not a failure of intelligence. It is a sign that the brain needs better focus, less stress, more rest, and smarter learning methods. Attention is the true starting point of memory. Without attention, memory cannot exist. Many people believe that memory begins when we try to remember, but in reality, memory begins much earlier, at the moment we first receive information. If the mind is distracted, the brain does not properly record what it sees or hears. This is why people often say, "I forgot," when the truth is that they never paid full attention in the first place. In today's world, attention is constantly under attack. When attention is broken, the brain receives information in fragments, not as a complete message. These fragments are weak and easy to forget. The brain needs clear, steady focus to build strong memory connections. Even a few minutes of deep attention can be more powerful than hours of distracted learning. When you focus fully on one task, the brain understands that the information is important. Attention sends a signal to the brain that says, "Save this." Without that signal, the brain lets the information pass by. This is why people remember emotional moments clearly, but forget ordinary conversations. Emotion naturally increases attention, and attention strengthens memory. Listening and reading with purpose also improves attention. When someone speaks, looking at them, listening carefully, and thinking about their words helps the brain stay active. When reading, asking simple questions like, "What is this about?" or "Why is this important?" keeps the mind engaged. Passive reading and listening create weak memories, while active attention creates strong ones. Attention also requires rest and discipline. A tired or overworked mind struggles to stay focused. Short breaks, deep breathing, and reducing distractions help improve attention. Training attention is a daily practice, not a one-time effort. When you learn to control where your focus goes, your memory automatically improves. Strong memory does not come from forcing the brain to remember more. It comes from giving full attention to what matters. When attention becomes a habit, remembering becomes natural. Simple memory techniques can turn learning from a struggle into an enjoyable experience. The brain does not remember information well when it is dry, boring, or disconnected. It remembers best when information is meaningful, colorful, and active. Techniques like association, visualization, and repetition work because they match the natural way the brain learns and stores information. Association means connecting new information to something you already know. The brain loves connections. When new knowledge is linked to familiar ideas, it becomes easier to store and recall. For example, when learning a new English word, connecting it to a personal experience, a similar word in your language, or a familiar object helps your brain create a strong memory path. The stronger the connection, the easier the recall. Visualization adds power to memory by using images. The brain thinks in pictures more than in words. When you create a clear, vivid image in your mind, the information becomes alive. Even simple images work. If the picture is funny, strange, or emotional, the memory becomes even stronger. Visualization turns abstract information into something real that the brain can hold on to. Repetition strengthens memory over time. One exposure is rarely enough for long-term memory. Repeating information at different times helps the brain understand that it is important. However, repetition should be spaced, not rushed. Reviewing information after a short break, then again later, is far more effective than repeating everything at once. Each repetition makes the memory deeper and more stable. These techniques work best when used together. Association gives meaning, visualization adds strength, and repetition provides stability. They require no special talent, only awareness and practice. Anyone can use them, anywhere, at any age. With regular use, remembering becomes easier and faster. Memory improves not by trying harder, but by using smarter methods. Simple techniques guide the brain in the right direction. When learning becomes active and creative, the brain responds naturally, and memory grows stronger every day. Training your memory does not require special tools. Everyday life already gives you countless opportunities to strengthen your memory if you use them correctly. The key is to turn ordinary moments into small memory exercises. When you do this daily, memory improvement becomes natural and long-lasting. One simple way to train memory is by remembering names. When you meet someone new, listen carefully to their name and repeat it silently or aloud. Try to connect the name with their face, voice, or a small detail about them. This small effort creates a strong link in the brain and makes recalling the name much easier later. Over time, this practice builds confidence and sharpens attention. Another powerful daily exercise is recalling events. At the end of the day, take a few minutes to remember what you did from morning to night. Think about places, people, conversations, and feelings. This strengthens your ability to recall details and improves mental clarity. Even recalling what you learned yesterday helps reinforce memory pathways and prevents information from fading. Numbers are also excellent memory trainers. Try to remember phone numbers, prices, or dates instead of relying on your phone. Break numbers into smaller parts or connect them with patterns or meanings. This challenges the brain and improves logical memory. Each small success encourages the brain to work more efficiently. Daily learning habits, such as reading, learning new words, or listening carefully, also train memory. When you actively engage with information, Instead of consuming it passively, the brain becomes stronger. Asking simple questions about what you learn helps fix it in memory. Consistency is more important than difficulty. Short, regular practice works better than rare, long sessions. When memory training becomes part of daily life, improvement happens quietly but powerfully. The brain learns through use, and daily life provides the perfect training ground. Taking care of your brain is essential for strong memory. Many people focus only on techniques and exercises, but forget that the brain is a living part of the body. If the body is unhealthy, the brain cannot perform at its best. Memory improves naturally when the brain receives proper rest, nutrition, and movement. Sleep plays a major role in memory. When you sleep, the brain organizes and stores the information you learned during the day. It decides what is important and strengthens those memory connections. Without enough sleep, this process is interrupted. Information remains weak and easily disappears. Even short periods of poor sleep can reduce focus and recall. Regular, quality sleep allows the brain to clean itself and prepare for new learning. Food also affects memory more than most people realize. The brain needs energy to function, and healthy food provides that fuel. Fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and water help the brain stay alert and balanced. When the body is dehydrated or filled with unhealthy food, the brain becomes slow and tired. Eating regularly and wisely supports concentration and long-term memory. Physical movement is another powerful tool for brain health. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, bringing oxygen and nutrients that help memory grow stronger. Even simple activities like walking, stretching, or light exercise can improve mental clarity. Movement reduces stress, and lower stress means better memory. A relaxed brain remembers more easily than a tense one. Mental rest is just as important as physical care. Constant pressure, overthinking, and screen overload exhaust the brain. Taking short breaks, breathing deeply, or spending time in silence helps the brain recover. These moments of rest allow memory systems to reset and work more effectively. Caring for the brain is not complicated, but it requires consistency. Small daily habits create a strong foundation for memory. When the brain is healthy, learning becomes easier, focus becomes sharper, and remembering feels natural rather than forced. Memory plays a powerful role in learning a language, especially English. When memory is weak, learning new words, sentence structures, and meanings feel slow and frustrating. But when memory improves, language learning becomes smoother and more enjoyable. A strong memory helps you store information clearly and recall it at the right moment, which is essential for speaking and understanding English with confidence. Vocabulary learning depends heavily on memory. Each new word must be remembered with its meaning, pronunciation, and usage. Without good memory habits, words are easily forgotten after a short time. When memory is trained, words stay longer in the mind and appear naturally during speaking and writing. This reduces hesitation and builds fluency. Grammar also becomes easier with better memory. Remembering sentence patterns, verb forms, and rules requires mental organization. A trained memory allows the brain to recognize patterns instead of memorizing rules mechanically. Over time, correct grammar feels natural rather than forced. This is why people with strong memory skills often speak more smoothly. Listening and reading skills are also supported by memory. When you remember words and structures, you understand spoken and written English faster. You spend less time translating and more time understanding meaning. Memory helps connect new information with what you already know, making comprehension stronger and quicker. Speaking confidence grows when memory improves. Many learners know words but cannot recall them at the right time. This creates fear and silence. A stronger memory allows faster recall, which leads to more natural speech. Confidence increases because the brain trusts itself to remember. Improving memory also supports consistent practice. When learners remember what they studied before, learning feels easier and more motivating. Progress becomes visible and frustration decreases. Language learning is not about learning more. It is about remembering better. When memory and language learning work together, improvement becomes steady and lasting. A trained memory turns English learning into a practical skill rather than a struggle. Memory plays a very important role in learning English. Many learners feel that English is difficult, not because the language itself is hard, but because they cannot remember what they learn. When memory is weak, new words disappear quickly, grammar rules feel confusing, and speaking becomes stressful. But when memory is strong, learning English becomes faster, easier, and more enjoyable. Learning vocabulary depends greatly on memory. Every new English word has a sound, a meaning, and a situation where it is used. If memory is not trained, the brain forgets these details very quickly. But a good memory helps store words deeply so they come to mind naturally when speaking or writing. This makes communication smoother and reduces fear while speaking. Grammar also improves with better memory. Many learners try to memorize rules, but they forget them during real conversations. A trained memory helps the brain recognize patterns instead of recalling rules one by one. Over time, correct grammar feels automatic. This allows learners to focus on meaning instead of worrying about mistakes. Listening and reading skills also depend on memory. When you remember words and sentence structures, you understand English faster. You do not need to translate every sentence in your head. Memory helps connect new information to what you already know, making comprehension clearer and quicker. This leads to better confidence while watching videos, listening to conversations, or reading texts. Speaking confidence grows naturally when memory improves. Many learners stay silent because they fear forgetting words. A strong memory allows faster recall, so ideas flow more easily. Confidence increases because the brain feels prepared. Improving memory also helps learners stay consistent. When you remember previous lessons, learning feels easier and more rewarding. Progress becomes visible and motivation increases. A strong memory does not just help you learn English, it helps you use English effectively and confidently in real life. Consistency is the true secret behind a strong and reliable memory. Many people look for fast results and powerful tricks, but memory does not improve in one day. It grows slowly through small, repeated actions. Just like physical fitness, memory becomes stronger when it is trained regularly not when it is used once in a while. Small daily practice creates lasting change. Practicing a little every day is far more effective than studying for many hours once a week. When the brain meets information repeatedly over time, it understands that the information is important. This repeated exposure strengthens memory connections and makes recall easier. Even 5 or 10 minutes of focused practice each day can bring better results than long, irregular study sessions. Consistency also builds confidence. When you practice daily, remembering becomes a habit rather than a struggle. The brain learns to expect learning and prepares itself to store information more efficiently. Over time, you stop worrying about forgetting because your memory becomes more reliable. This confidence encourages you to learn more and practice more. Another important part of consistency is patience. Memory improvement is not always visible immediately. Sometimes progress feels slow, but the brain is still working quietly. People who succeed are not those who learn faster, but those who continue even when results are not instant. Daily habits play a major role in consistency. Reviewing what you learned yesterday, recalling information before sleeping, or practicing new words each morning keeps memory active. These small routines train the brain naturally and reduce pressure. Learning becomes part of daily life instead of a difficult task. Consistency also reduces stress. When learning is regular, the brain feels calm and organized. There is no rush to remember everything at once. A calm brain remembers better than a rushed one. In the end, strong memory is not the result of talent or luck. It is the result of steady effort. When you practice a little every day, memory grows stronger, clearer, and more dependable over time.